And today we're going to be doing another video about Little Britain, and as I'm sure many of you will agree, Little Britain is a very mixed bag. There are great characters, like I talked about in my last video about Little Britain, but today we're going to be talking about some of the worst characters in the show. Some characters which are either just annoyingly written, boring, offensive, or just generally not funny. Number 10 is the pianist. I mean, there's nothing too offensive about this, other than the fact that the only reason I don't like it is it's just not that funny. It's just he's playing the piano and then he says something that's a bit stupid, like, oh, I've lost my bag, or oh, I need to record something on TV, but that's all the joke really is. I mean, yeah, it's not terrible, but by no means great. Number 9 is Michael Dinner, which is his name. Most of you probably didn't even know that. But yeah, this character is one that most people don't really remember, and it's not that hard to see why. The basic joke is, he is just, he's ordering some really fancy meal, and then he asks for some something really cheap, like a Lion Bar or Carton Bungo, which to be honest, would have been okay as a side joke that led up to a bigger joke at the end. That would have been okay, because you might listen to it and then go, that's quite funny, and then it leads to something else. But as the actual punchline, it just doesn't quite cut it for me. Again, nothing too terrible, but just not that funny. Number 8 is Norman Fry, which admittedly is the only sketch which I'd say is probably more relevant today than it was back then. And this is a shame, because this sketch actually did have quite a lot of potential. It could have been funny, but it just wasn't. Basically he would just be outside his house with his family and sort of talk about some allegation about how he accidentally had some kind of, sexual encounter or whatever. But it was just a bit slow. I mean, it would have been funny if they could have picked up the pace a little and he had a slightly better delivery. But just the way he said it just was completely uninteresting, and the voice was just sort of too exaggerated. I mean, if he was kind of more like, the Prime Minister, that's, what was his name? Sebastian was another it. That would have been, if he was just a very sort of average bloke at the start, and then he kind of told us a weird story. But he's a bit too overplayed, in my opinion. Number 7 is Sir Bernard Chumley, which is an incredibly forgettable character. I mean, the only good thing about the sketch is I actually recognised, the block of flats that it was filmed in, near where I grew up. But what even was this? The sketch is basically it's like a faded actor living in Sandy Toksvig house, which is kind of okay. I'm just reading Wikipedia at the moment, and he just invites a young actor to over to, and there's a lot of implications that he's homosexual, which has not aged very well. And he always talks about his sister Kitty, who's disabled or something. But I mean, I do like dark comedy, but I don't really know what to say about it. It's just kind of unfunny and boring, and he's just quite an unlikable character as well. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it. Number 6 is that woman who says, "Oh, he was gorgeous." Well, I mean, that is just the whole joke. It's always like, oh, she has to describe someone, and she just describes them as gorgeous. Which, I mean, it could be kind of funny, but it's just the delivery it's just too cheesy and repetitive. So yeah, it's just boring and not funny. Nothing too offensive about it, but it's pretty meh. Number 5 is Sandra and Ralph, or Raph, or however she pronounced it anyway. I think competitive parents are the most irritating characters, just irritating people in the world. They anger me a lot. But I mean, it's just quite nasty, really. It's just generally unpleasant to watch. How sort of she's just always disappointed in her son, She's always just really rude to everyone. She always like makes up lies, you know, to make sure that he gets the part. And one episode, she actually threatens to if you don't get it, we're gonna have to sell the rabbit. That's heartbreaking. I feel really bad for it. I mean, for him, or even like people in real life whose like parents really want them to be high achievers. Just relax and let them watch Little Britain. You know. Number 4, Ting, Tong and Dudley. Now, yeah, this is kind of offensive towards like Asian communities, and it's just it's always kind of like making fun of the whole kind of, you know, sex trafficking and all that, which that's not really that. It's not funny, is it? And just, you know, it was very controversial. And at what cost? I mean, I don't even remember laughing really during it. I mean, okay, there were a few okay moments. Can't think of any off the top of my head. But overall, yeah, I don't really have much to say about this character. Number 3, Bubbles de Vere. I mean, this is just horrible to watch. Her costume outfit is sort of meant to make her look like, you know, she's fat, but it's kind of making fun of the overweight community. And God, I don't even know what accent it's even meant to be. Like, call me Bubbles, darling, everyone does. Is that an English accent? I've no idea. But this, it just kind of looks horrible. I mean, none of the stories are that interesting. It's like her in the hotel with another person who was all black-facing. That has definitely not aged well. Okay, Rob Brydon's kind of the saving grace of this sketch, but I just feel every time that Bubbles talks, I just want to cover my ears, because her voice is just horrible to listen to, and she's just horrible to look at, and she's just a very unlikable character as well. Number 2, Emily and Florence. This one has aged very badly, and it wasn't even that funny to begin with. I mean, I don't think I even laughed once throughout watching this sketch. You know, it's transphobic. Both the characters have incredibly annoying voices, like, oh hello, I'm Emily Howard, we are ladies. Really, I mean, there isn't even really that many actual punchlines. I think they banked so much on the fact that, you know, a man dressed up as a woman would be funny, that they didn't really write any other jokes. Like the fact that Matt Lucas has a moustache, or Florence has a moustache, and is wearing like an outdated Victorian frock. Then the whole joke is like, oh, she has to use like a dead name Eddie or something, but she just describes that it's a ladies thing or everything. But when she kind of breaks her character and has to like say something in a man's voice, that is the bit that's meant to make you go ha 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 ha, which it doesn't for me. And the number 1 worst Little Britain character is every single character from Little Britain USA. I mean, look at those words. Little Britain USA. It beats me how that show even exists. I mean, admittedly, when some of the older characters were brought back and just, you know, it's setting it in America, that was okay, but the new characters, they're just all terrible. Like, the spaceman guy, he's just a showy-offy knobhead. Ellie Grace and her mum, when they sort of think, I love you more than, like, butt plugs, or something like that. Honestly, that could have been written by, you know, an 11-year-old or 12-year-old. I mean, no adult finds that funny. The dog talking to his owner, that's okay. It's one of the less terrible ones, but it's by no means good. I can't even remember that many of them. Those 2 muscular guys, they're just, whatever they do is incredibly forgettable, and I can't even remember most of them. They're just boring and forgettable. And it's still like Little Britain. It's just basically the same show but set in America. I mean, British comedy in America, it just doesn't. You can't cross them. They're just two different things which don't work. But yeah, that's it really. But I don't want to say that I hate Little Britain. You know, I do like a lot of the characters. Admittedly, these few are just annoying or offensive. But I do love most of the characters. That's it really. Bye bye.